Overnight, the global picture has been dominated by a sharp escalation in the Middle East, with major implications for energy markets, transport and risk sentiment. The United States has joined Israel in launching large-scale strikes on Iran, with President Donald Trump publicly framing the operation as aimed at regime change. Iran has responded with missile attacks across the region, with reporting indicating strikes affecting multiple countries and a claimed hit on a U.S. base in Bahrain near the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet headquarters. On the ground, accounts from inside Iran describe panic, disruption and an internet blackout, while analysis across several outlets warns this phase is different in scale and could tip into a longer, deadlier regional war. The immediate economic channel to watch is oil and shipping. With the Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz central to global energy flows, insurers are reportedly moving to cancel policies and raise premiums for vessels operating in the area, with costs flagged to rise sharply. That matters, because higher war risk insurance and rerouting can quickly translate into higher freight costs and fuel prices, feeding global inflation pressures at a time when many economies are still trying to lock in disinflation. Markets will also be watching for any disruption to Gulf oil supply infrastructure or shipping lanes, and for how quickly risk pricing spreads into broader credit and equity conditions. International travel is already being hit. The conflict has thrown flight paths into disarray, with airspace closures and suspended services at major transit hubs that connect Australian travellers to Europe and Asia. Expect ongoing cancellations, longer routings, and knock-on delays as airlines manage crew duty limits and aircraft positioning. In parallel conflict news, tensions between Pakistan and Afghanistan are rising after Pakistani strikes on Kabul and other Afghan towns, with the Taliban saying it is open to talks to resolve the matter through dialogue. It's a separate theater, but it adds to a wider sense of geopolitical instability. Turning to Australia, the federal government is aligning publicly with Washington's stated objective of preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has said Australia supports U.S. action to stop Iran getting nuclear weapons and has convened the National Security Committee. The key domestic questions now are consular and aviation impacts for Australians in the region, the security posture at home, and the economic exposure through fuel prices and supply chains. On the Australian economy and policy front, two compliance and governance issues are in focus. Fuel importers have been put on notice that importing Russian origin oil refined in third countries may breach Australian sanctions law, raising due diligence expectations across energy procurement and shipping documentation. Separately, the Anti-Slavery Commissioner has warned Australia is falling behind global peers, with around $100 billion in imports linked to modern slavery risks. That points to likely pressure for stronger supply chain reporting, procurement standards and enforcement issues that will land heavily across the Australian public service and major contractors. For the Australian share market, the dominant near-term driver is likely to be global risk-off sentiment tied to the Middle East. Energy stocks may benefit from higher crude prices, while airlines, travel-exposed names and fuel-intensive sectors could face pressure. Investors will also be alert to any widening in insurance and freight costs that could squeeze margins across retail and manufacturing. Locally, Sydney hosted the 48th Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras Parade, drawing large crowds to Oxford Street with more than 170 floats and about 10,000 marchers, an important civic event that also brings significant activity for the city's visitor economy.